Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the QB List pregame live stream. I'm your host, Aaron Rader. You can find me on Twitter, RAY_DUR. And with me today, I have a little bit of a host shakeup here. I've got Erik Smith with us. How's it going, Erik? And also Kenny Hyttenhove.
Yep, doing good. Hey. Man. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me on.
And where can they find you guys on Twitter?
You can find me at Erik Smith QBL. That's ERIK.
And you can find me at Kenny QBL on Twitter only.
Awesome. So we will dive right in here. We've got quite a few big name injuries. Teddy Bridgewater just got ruled out. PJ Walker, XFL standout's gonna start. He's also going to start for one of my fantasy teams over Alex Smith because I like his upside. So let's hope he does pretty well. Also for the Panthers, Christian McCaffrey's out again. So Mike Davis could be, another stud this week. Depends on how well Walker plays, I guess. They are playing the Lions. So how do you guys kind of foresee the Panthers offense today with PJ Walker?
I'm worried about it personally. I've got the receivers ranked pretty far down. I mean, as far as Walker goes, maybe he gives you some rushing floor, but I mean, with this year, there was, no preseason games, not a lot of snaps to go around outside of Teddy Bridgewater. So I'm just worried about this offense in general. I think Mike Davis will get some dump offs, but I'm docking all these receivers pretty far in my rankings.
How about you, Kenny? How do you foresee the Panthers offense playing out here?
Yeah, I think it's just who he has a rapport with, and we don't really know because there's no preseason games. So, I mean, I was talking to Erik about it earlier, and I think I like Samuel a little bit more just because he also has that floor because he's been running the ball and he's been running pretty effectively this year. So I like Samuel out of the wide receivers that are out there.
Let's see, we got one question coming in here already. Rank these players in PPR: Ballage, Bernard, A.J. Brown, James Robinson.
Ballage, Bernard.
So like a flex spot?
Brown and Robinson both have really tough matchups this week.
Yeah, I still have Robinson probably the highest of that group. And as far as the running backs, I would have Robinson, Bernard, Ballage. Wherever A.J. Brown fits in is the question, how scared of you are of that Baltimore matchup. But I'd probably still put him behind James Robinson. I'm the type that's always going to play A.J. Brown. He just makes too many plays. So I'll go with him.
Yeah, I actually like Ballage better than – I think I like him better than Bernard and Robinson this week against the Jets. I'm actually starting Gio Bernard over James Robinson in a league, so I just really like Bernard's upside more than I like Robinson's with the pass catching. I know Robinson's been involved in the pass game also, but that Steelers defense is just, probably the best in the league. Certainly top three. So,
yeah, that's fair. He's on the field so much. They're giving him all the work. So he has a nice floor. But yeah, I agree. He may not have a breakout week here against the Steelers.
Another big name, obviously, Drew Brees. It came out yesterday. I think he's got, 8 broken ribs?
11.
Oh, wow. So
do you have 11 ribs? I don't even know.
I don't think so. I don't even know how many you have, actually. But, yeah, it looks like he's going to be out a while. He may not even be back till if they make the playoffs. He's on IR, so he's got to miss at least the next 3 games. We'll see, kind of how he looks after that. But in the meantime, it looks like Taysom Hill, although I don't believe that as much as Sean Payton would like us to think, because Taysom Hill's hardly attempted any passes in his career. I wouldn't be surprised if Jameis Winston came in, got most of the work at quarterback today.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. The reports came out that said there weren't really any offensive packages for Winston, and Taysom was getting all the snaps. They would definitely want to get Winston some snaps if he was going to play, but I don't know. This is confusing. I don't know why they wouldn't mix them both in. So I do agree with you, but it's going to be fascinating. This is one of the games I want to watch the most, actually, and it's kind of funny that it's this Falcons-Saints matchup. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm going to roll Taysom Hill out there if I have him. It's kind of the same argument that we just had with Walker. He's got that floor, but we've seen him. He can throw, and he's been in that offense a little bit longer. So I'm gonna trust him. I'm gonna throw him out there. Why not? just a little bit of chaos out there this week.
Yeah, I mean, if you can get 60 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown out of him, that's a pretty good floor already. So
Right.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
We've got another guy that's been on our. He's supposed to come back possibly next week. Is Zach Ertz? They said he practiced this week. Possibly could have came back, but Doug Peterson was saying that he might need a little bit more time. So I don't really know, his outlook the rest of the season. Goddard may kind of overtake him here. I just don't trust anyone in that Eagles offense right now. It's been extremely underwhelming. So, and also we got Joe Mixon just headed to IR. I'm not even sure if he's going to be back this season. Have you guys seen any reports that suggest he could possibly be back for the fantasy playoffs? Or
Erik,
it's not encouraging. Yeah, it's not encouraging. I mean, they did the same thing with AJ Green last year. They just kind of strung along the injury forever, and then he never even went on IR until late, I think. So I don't trust that he's going to be back. Now that they put him on IR, it's at least another 3 weeks. So something had to happen. They don't really give us any information, so there's no telling what it is, but I would count on not having him rest of the year personally.
Gosh.
How many weeks we got left? We've got 6 real fantasy football weeks, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, at best you get 3 weeks.
And if you're like me and you drafted him in the first round, I mean, you might not even be in the playoffs anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. My Scott Fishbowl roster, it was a trap. I drafted out of the 12th spot, and Michael Thomas fell to me, and then I doubled it up with Mixon. So.
Oh no.
Needless to say, I'm not doing well in that league.
Oh no.
Yeah. Tough times.
The Lions, and then the Lions also have they're without Kenny Golladay, Swift, and Amendola today. Swift had a concussion; he should be back next week. But Stafford, with down 2 receivers and DeAndre Swift, could be a rough day for Stafford in that offense. Are you guys? I saw that Kerryon Johnson and AP are supposed to be splitting the carries. What are y'all's views on the Lions offense today and possibly either of those running backs?
I mean, I would expect that Kerryon gets a decent amount of work. I mean, AP is going to lead the way, but they seem to want to mix it up. So I think AP is the boring option, and Kerryon maybe a little bit upside in the passing game, but it's mainly AP's backfield. I don't know about you, Kenny.
I like AP. I like AP better. I think he's going to get the goal line work. Yeah. I don't know that Kerryon's even that much more exciting. I mean, it's just Kerryon.
Yeah.
And I like Marvin Hall. He's flashed a little bit. I think he's got a little bit of a rapport going with Stafford, and he does have an injured thumb. So I worry a little bit about that. So I don't know. I think they're going to lean more on the run than they will the pass. So, but I like Hall as kind of a sleeper this week.
Yeah, and I definitely like AP more than Kerryon. I think if you're really desperate, I mean, if you get 40% of the snaps out of him or something in a passing game role, you could get a little bit of a desperation flex option. So I'm not ranking him high, but I think he's probably someone on waivers that if you were stuck, you could pick him up.
No, and I talked about that with Rich on the No Huddle the other day, and AP is still one of the best at yards created in the league. He's 13th in the league in yards created. I mean, he's still hard to bring down. He's not making you miss. He's not juking you out of your shoes anymore. Yeah. But the dude gets downhill, and nobody wants to try to tackle him. So he's still going to get you yards if he gets downhill. So, sure. Yeah, put him in there. I can see him getting like 80 yards or something like that, and maybe falling in the end zone.
Yeah, and I'm pretty big on Hall too. I mean, he's shown some flashes. He's definitely a burner. So I wouldn't be mad if someone wanted to flex him today. As we say that, Ben Brown says Marvin Hall over Rager in the rain. I'm going Marvin Hall, I believe.
Well, actually, I like Rager a lot better as a player, so I guess it depends on how much you're scared off by the rain. I would take Rager, though, just in a vacuum between those two. I just worry with Stafford, thumb injury, maybe lots of AP running, with a Panthers team that's missing their quarterback. This could just be a slow game with lots of running. So that'd be my concern with Hall. If it was going to be a shootout, I think I'd be more in on him.
Yeah, and that Cleveland game's projected to be close, and I don't think the weather's supposed to be that bad. I'm not really worried about rain. The only time I'm ever really worried about weather is when it's very windy, and it's supposed to be gusts like up to like 15 miles an hour. But if it really isn't. It's shown that if it's anything less than like 25, I think, then it's not really. It's like negligible. So I like Rager still. I like Rager. I think he has more upside.
And then Matt's got a question. I don't know if he's on the plane right now or not. He may have just landed, but
What are you doing?
he says PJ or Taysom in cash DFS, both 4,800 in DK.
Oh, in DK. Well, I was going to say, if you're playing FanDuel, then you have to lock him in cash at tight end. But
I take Taysom for sure.
Yeah.
I trust him more in that offense anyway.
Yeah, I think I'm going Taysom too.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. Have we seen much out of? I mean, PJ Walker. I didn't watch as much XFL as some did, but he was mainly just kind of running around making plays, right? Like,
I mean, he was like the poster boy for the XFL. Honestly, like he was
like the MVP.
He was like, yeah, he was the guy. So I mean, who knows? Maybe it'll translate. But when he came in against Atlanta, it was pretty rough. Was telling Kenny earlier. I think it was like 3 pass attempts for 0 yards. So I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I think they were using him as like a gadget player that game, obviously, but.
He's really raw. He was on the Colts practice squad forever, so like he's got all kinds of talent. But he
was pretty good in college too, from what I've read.
Yeah. So I don't know how well he's running that offense as far as the nuance of making the reads and things like that, and how quickly he's just going to say, all right, forget it, I'm just running. I'm just going to duck and run. So you're kind of taking your money and guessing. I feel more comfortable. I've seen more with Taysom Hill, and I think he's a better choice.
Yeah, I agree. We got another question here. Start Michael Thomas or Amari Cooper as my flex.
Man, so I mean, I kind of wanted to talk about Michael Thomas at some point. I don't know how to value him properly with Taysom Hill in there, but I think when you're talking about these two. I think with Dalton, struggling, that whole offense struggling, I'd take the shot on Michael Thomas. But I'm not expecting the Michael Thomas of old. We haven't really seen it this year anyway. And then couple that with Taysom Hill, I'm lowering him quite a bit. I'm not sure how you all feel about him.
I don't care for either. I mean, it's hard to say between either one of them. Andy Dalton or Taysom Hill. Who do you trust more? So,
post-concussion, post-COVID, Andy Dalton. We don't really know. What to expect from him. And then anybody that's behind him has been terrible also. So I like Amari, but that defense is pretty good that he's going up against. And I can see that being a Dalvin Cook game also, where they just kill the clock. So I don't like, I'd rather go Michael Thomas in this one. Because I feel like if there's one guy that he's going to rely on, it's going to be the number one receiver, rather the tight end.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm going Michael Thomas as well, just because Amari Cooper, ever since the Dak injury, has been pretty rough. Alex Tran says Brandon Cooks or Robbie Anderson full PPR. I think I'm going Cooks. I mean, Deshaun Watson's over PJ Walker, obviously. So even against that, I mean, the Patriots defense doesn't scare me. Gilmore should be on Fuller.
Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely Brandon Cooks. And that's projected to be a pretty close game. I don't know that it's going to be that close. I think Houston should win this one. I can see New England grinding it out, but I think Houston should win.
I mean, the Patriots are a little bit of an enigma. I mean, they let Joe Flacco, tear him up 2 weeks ago and then turn around and beat Baltimore. So I don't really have this team figured out yet.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a shootout there myself. So I'm going with Cooks, just the quarterback. If it was Teddy Bridgewater, it'd be a different story. But I like that game. And, I mean, I think the Patriots are going to put up a lot of points on Houston, too, because you can run and pass on them. Mm-hmm. I've been putting in a lot of Cam and Jacoby Myers and, DFS this week. So I just like the matchup all around. So I hope that kind of turns it into a shootout.
Yeah, and I've actually got Cam starting over Tom Brady this week since Tom's playing the Rams. So M. Kava says Moore, no Teddy, of course. Patrick or Rager in full PPR.
Tim Patrick sighting.
I think that's still DJ Moore. I've docked him because of PJ Walker, but he's still in the wide receiver 30s for me, I believe, and the others are going to be well below that. So you can see them trying to get the ball short to DJ Moore a lot, and maybe Robbie Anderson isn't as involved now that it's a new quarterback. So I'd take a shot on DJ Moore. He's a playmaker. He should be able to get you something this week.
Yeah, I'm still going DJ Moore here. And then last question we got here: do I use Swift out with concussion? Obviously, do I use Gore or Dobbins? I'm definitely going Dobbins there.
Yes,
Dobbins.
Yeah.
Upside.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of questions there. Like it. We got a few more injuries to hit. We've got LaVisca Chenault still out. That's not really, a huge deal. Not too many people starting Chenault out there. Miles Gaskin's still hurt. How do you pronounce their starting running back's name now? Is it Ahmed or Ahmed?
I've been saying Ahmed, but I haven't really.
Because I know last week when I was watching, they were pronouncing it Ahmed, but
then I'd go with them. They're professional.
He had 16 last week. Looking like they're starting running back for the foreseeable future until Gaskin gets healthy. So if you can pick him up, if you need running back help for sure, could help you, catapult you into the playoffs.
Yeah, I will say that Matt Breida, I believe, is going to play this week. I still think they'll ease him in, and it's Ahmed's show here, but it's maybe puts a little wrinkle into it in the weeks ahead if Breida's back playing.
It'd be great to get a full game out of him. I hope he stays healthy.
Yeah.
Denver's defense is pretty good against the run.
It is, but I believe last week they were. That's what a lot of people in the comments on Yahoo were saying was like they got torched on the ground the other day, so they were wanting to start this running back. But I'm like Erik, with Breida back, it's kind of hard to trust. I kind of want to see one more week of Ahmed. So
I don't know. I think Flores has shown like he's going with his guys. He doesn't care about name value. Like if they're playing well, he's playing the best guy. And Ahmed has been good. I mean, there's no reason to not play him. I can see him mixing in Breida, but I would say go roll with Ahmed. So
yeah, no, I do like him. I thought he looked really good. He got a lot of red zone work. My big questions would be, it's only been like a game and a half. I think he's only seen one target, so I'm not sure if he's maybe a little bit touchdown dependent. We'll see. It's kind of hard to figure out how good this Dolphins offense is right now. I mean, Tua looks good, but he's not exactly, Justin Herbert from a fantasy perspective right now. So, I mean, what's the upside here for Ahmed? Is it like 100 yards and a touchdown? I don't know. Maybe he can get to 100, but it feels like a lot of 60 to 80-yard games for me. But it's still early, so maybe there's more here. Maybe they'll get him involved in the passing game.
Yeah, and these Dolphins have definitely been, one of the surprises of the season. A lot of people, said it was a talented roster and whatnot, and, Brian Flores has done a tremendous job, but I don't think anyone saw Tua coming in going undefeated thus far, so it's pretty wild. That defense also looks very good. So just a few more injuries here. David Johnson is out, Sam Darnold is out, and also Sammy Watkins, which Sammy Watkins lives on the, inactive list. So those are just a few more of those. That's all the injuries for this week. Obviously, a lot of big names, a lot of, affecting playoff spots here.
Erik, does that move anybody on Kansas City and the receivers for you? Are you moving anybody around or with Watkins out?
I like Mecole Hardman came off the COVID IR, and he had a 9-target game just a couple weeks ago. I think it might have been the last game he played. Let me pull that up here. No, I guess he went 4 targets against Carolina, but against the Jets, he saw 9 targets for 96 yards. And if we could get anywhere near 9 targets out of Mecole Hardman this week, I'd be starting him without hesitation. So I'm looking at him, and I think Demarcus Robinson, like if you're in a super deep league, he could be a decent flex play because either of these guys could catch a 40-yard touchdown. So they've really been really efficient going downfield, not getting as much going to the running backs, and it's just been deep balls. So you could do a lot worse than Hardman this week.
Yeah, and if you can grab Duke Johnson, definitely do that as well. I think David Johnson's supposed to be out for a while, so definitely anywhere you can grab him. But that's all we got this week for injuries. I did want to talk about one game with actually I'll talk about COVID for a minute, but according to Adam Schefter, there's no new positives this morning. They had a little bit of a scare with the Texans. They thought it was COVID, but it was actually flu going around. Larry Tunsil was ruled out due to the flu this morning. So just a little news on that. And then also weather. There's the only weather really that could affect the game, you talked about it a little bit, was Cleveland and Philly. 10-mile-per-hour winds at kickoff, low 40s and rain. Could get a wintry mix depending on the temperature, how far it goes down, but probably won't get down below like 42. But yeah, I just wanted to touch on that because Baker and that offense and them looked pretty rough last week in the bad weather. So,
and I think this weather is not nearly as bad. They're both outdoor cold weather teams also, so I'm not worried about that at all. It was much windier and snowy last week. This is just rain, 10-mile-an-hour winds. I'm not too worried about that. And I mean, they want to run, especially Cleveland. They want to run the ball through Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt anyway. So I don't see them changing up their offense much at all.
Right, and I that's the way I feel about it. I mean, Cleveland's probably going to keep it on the ground. Ton of Nick Chubb, ton of Kareem Hunt. So I just really don't like Baker Mayfield in general. So even with the bad weather, certainly don't like him. But that's all for the games affected by weather. Since we have Kenny on, before we get into the DFS plays and whatnot, Kenny does a ton of stuff for us. He's been with us a long time. He has his opportunity report every week, and I did just want to let him highlight that and kind of talk about that with us for a minute.
Yeah, sure. Each week I kind of go through how the skill positions I cover running back, wide receiver, tight ends, and how they do based on the opportunity and the volume that they're getting at each position. Earlier this year for our Fantasy 101, I kind of dug in to see which stats really matter the most for each position, and I went ahead and pulled out all those volume stats that align or correlate best with the PPR points, and went ahead and put those into our opportunity report. So it's kind of a new and improved opportunity report this season. And using that, I do standard deviation. So I kind of see who is standing out above average with their opportunities at each position to kind of get an idea of like who is getting the most opportunity for each team each week. And, sometimes I'll find guys that are, just now on the uprise, or guys that are trending. They've done it a couple of times in a row, and I try to focus on them, but I also try to throw some names in there that maybe I don't go as in depth in, but you need to keep an eye on.
Awesome. Well, who's a few guys, kind of that you've seen kind of stand out here in the last few weeks?
So I will talk about Kalen Ballage. I wanted to throw his name out there. He's this week, especially against the Jets. I know a lot of people are going to buy into that revenge narrative. I'm more about the statistics. And last week, he had 24 opportunities with 23 touches, and he even got some green zone work. So he got a touch within the green zone from 5 yards and in. He also got 6 targets, which is a lot. And he was able to put up 15 fantasy points. So he's a guy that I'm looking at this week, and he's relatively cheap in DFS also. What do you guys think about Kalen this week against the Jets?
Yeah, definitely a great spot. Oh, sorry, Aaron.
No, you're good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a great spot against the Jets. There's part of me that doesn't trust Anthony Lynn because he just keeps switching this backfield around, but I believe this is 2 straight weeks with pretty significant share for Ballage. So yeah, I'm in. I mean, I've got him high up in my rankings. It's crazy to have someone like Kalen Ballage this high up because I don't think he's that great of a player, but yeah, I mean, he's definitely an RB2 with some upside for more this week.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's the opportunity. I mean, he's just getting the ball, and he had 73% snap share last week, and I believe when we talked about him on the no huddle, I think Rich said that his name's escaping me. Who's the backup? Your rookie guy. Yeah, he only got like 4 touches in the entire game. So I'm gonna go ahead. I mean, that's such a lopsided total. I'm gonna go ahead and go with Ballage for this week.
Yeah, I was reading. I did a rookie super flex mock with number fire people earlier in the offseason, and I took Joshua Kelly in like the third round, and my write up was like basically what happened. It was a dream scenario for him. It was, well, Eckler could get hurt, and if that happens, he's going to get a huge opportunity. And it was like everything happened, and they just didn't go with him. He wasn't any good, and they didn't use him. So I don't know. Kelly had every opportunity in the world, and they are finding people off of waivers to play over him. So yeah, I'd go with Balaj for sure at this point.
It's got to be a pass protection thing to protect Herbert, because they were giving him the ball at the beginning of the year near the end zone, and he was doing fairly well. I was kind of impressed. Like he took over Justin Jackson's role, and then now Kalen Balaj is the guy.
Yeah, I don't get it. And I mean, I've heard a few people kind of theorize that he had a couple fumbles. It wasn't that many, but there were a few fumbles, and they thought that maybe he was running more cautiously, trying to take care of the ball, and that was affecting his play. But that seems like too much too. So pass protection may be it, because Herbert's the most important thing for the Chargers rest of season for sure.
For many years. Go ahead, Erik. Go ahead. Put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah, it looks like Matt's calling you out. He says Gio or Balaj this week, Erik.
Wait, what am I getting called out for? Oh. No, I got Gio ahead of him, I believe. So,
yes.
I'd rather go with Gio.
I just want to be on record. I'm going Balaj, so take that for what you will. I just like the matchup better. I mean, Washington's pretty tough. Gio probably will get more pass work, but Balaj, it's insane to see Balaj. But, before the season started, Balaj was regarded as one of the worst, running backs in the league, like one of the most pedestrian backs. And then I'm watching him the other day, and I'm just like, I don't know. This guy looks pretty good to me. I mean, he's powering through guys, and he's not just out there plotting. So
yeah, he was popping against the Jets too. Like you see him on the field, and he just kind of popped off the screen. And do you think Matthew Berry's taking victory laps now? Because he loved him in Miami, and he was terrible. But can he do it now? Is that okay?
You just gotta stay patient. It's a multi-year process here. So yeah, take the victory lap.
All right. Another guy I wanted to talk about at running back was Nyheim Hines. So he has a pretty good matchup against Green Bay this week, and they have a really bad run defense. And Hines also has that floor because he's a receiving back. And the last time that we saw him, he scored 2 touchdowns on his birthday, and he looks pretty good. He had 28.5 fantasy points. Like I said, that's touchdown driven, but he had 6 targets. He saw a 55% snap share. But I'm also, part of me, I'm a Colts fan, so take this with a grain of salt. But there's part of me that thinks that the Colts are going to want to get out there and give JT a chance against this bad run defense. What do you guys think about Hines versus JT this week?
Go ahead, Erik. You take this one.
Well, I'll say that I like Hines a lot this week against that matchup. I like Hines in general, and I read a report today just before I got on the stream that said Hines is probably going to receive the bulk of the carries this week. And, I don't think it's going to be this game, what the Colts want to do, because, they may want to give Jonathan Taylor another chance and get him some carries, but I don't think this is a game you can do it. You can't really afford to go out there and just hope that Jonathan Taylor, resurfaces as the top back against Aaron Rodgers, because you're probably not going to have that opportunity unless the defense is good. So if the Colts are able to get on top of them early, they can probably afford to do that. But I just feel that this is a Nyheim Hines game for sure. Just matching points with the Packers. So
yeah, Hines is a hard one for me to figure out, because last couple of weeks he's looked like their best running back even on the ground, which is kind of weird. I never would have thought I'd say that. I would have put even Jordan Wilkins ahead of him probably just as far as a rusher, but he's had a lot of burst lately and he's looked good. I don't really expect it to go like that the whole year, but I have him ranked ahead of Taylor. I do agree with you. I think they're going to keep giving Taylor chances. I mean, they don't want this just to be a completely busted draft pick. So maybe if he catches fire early, he has a big week. But Hines gets the passing work. So if they fall behind, that's nice. So, yeah, I've got Hines as an RB2 this week.
All right. So I wanted to move over to the wide receivers. And we got a message or an update right before we went on that Jacksonville's top 2 corners are going to be out this week. And it was already a bad matchup to start. And both Deontay Johnson and Juju had huge weeks on the opportunity report last week. Deontay ran 43 routes, hit 11 targets. Ben just loves him. He had 1 red zone target in a 24% target share. So I like Deontay this week. Juju had 13 targets and 3 of them in the red zone. So it seemed like with the way things were playing out last week, Juju was more of a play within the red zone. So if you're looking for TDs, that's who you would play this week. But I'm not really sure who I would rather play. It seems like Ben really likes Deontay. He targets him a lot. So you guys, who would you pick over those 2 guys?
I like Deontay personally. About every game he's played where he hasn't gotten hurt, he's had 10 plus targets. So he's my favorite. I'm starting to come around on Claypool. I like them all this week, but I noticed that Claypool's getting a lot of green zone work. He's almost been like their red zone running back at times. They're giving him passes and rushes, and like Ebron hasn't gotten any down real close to the end zone. So it's like they're really using Claypool creatively down there, throwing him screens and end arounds and stuff. So I'd almost put Claypool next, but it's hard to fade that target share that Juju gets. So I think Claypool has bigger upside while Juju's the safer play. But Deontay's my favorite overall. I think he's the number 1 here. And now that he's gotten over those injury issues, it's just, smooth sailing from here, hopefully.
Yeah, I like them all today too, but I don't really have a preference Deontay over Juju. I think either one each week could be, a top 5 receiver, top 10 receiver easily. So,
and you're right, Eric. Claypool had 2 targets within the green zone, so within the 5 yards. So, yeah. He led the league last week when he was tied with Hopkins and Evans, Michael Thomas, and my boy Brandon Ayuk. So, and he had 178 air yards. So they're throwing him the ball a lot, and he's throwing it deep and short. So, yeah, you're right on that call.
Yeah, and I know like that game earlier in the year where he had, how many touchdowns did he have? Was it a 3 touchdown game?
17. I don't even know. It was a lot.
Yeah, but they're always doing these like wide receiver screens to him in close. So hey, if that's a part of their offense, he's going to keep scoring touchdowns. So I love him. I was pretty skeptical at first, but I've kind of done a full circle on him.
So another talented guy, he's not going to play today. He's going to play on Monday night against Tampa. Is Josh Reynolds. Kind of upset me last week because I went ahead and locked in Robert Woods for my cash game play on a No Huddle podcast, and then Josh Reynolds outplayed him. And he's actually been out targeting Robert Woods over the last 3 or 4 weeks. He had 56 snaps, 80% of the snap share, 37 routes. And he had 10 targets last week, which is a 28% target share, over 100 air yards. And he put up 17 fantasy points last week. Is this something that you think could continue going forward? Or, Tampa Bay is a pretty decent defense, so I'm not really sure what to make of that guy.
Well, I don't think he's someone you can count on every week, but obviously in this offense, him and the tight ends are always a wild card. There's weeks that they could pop off. Maybe he does get a lot of work this week again with that secondary keying in on Woods and Cup, but I don't know. He's not someone I'm particularly high on, but obviously if there's an injury at receiver, I would definitely love to grab Josh Reynolds.
Yeah, 3 straight weeks he's had 8, 9, 10 targets, so the production's not amazing, but he's getting the work. More of what this has done for me is it used to be where Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp were just kind of always like back end wide receiver 1, mid-range wide receiver 2s, and I'm starting to drop them further and further as we go because, like Aaron said, the tight ends are getting involved. They got 2 tight ends involved. Now Josh Reynolds is getting involved. They've got 3 running backs. They're just really spreading it out this year. In years past, it was just Woods and Kupp, and that was kind of a big part of why they were so great. So run heavy offense, spreading it around a lot. It's just I'm not going out to start Reynolds necessarily. It's just eating away from Woods and Kupp for me.
Right, and I'm going to move over to tight end. Another guy that showed out pretty well, even though quarterback hasn't been great so far this year, is Noah Fant. He had 84.5% snap share, and he ran 39 routes, which is pretty good for the tight ends. He had 7 targets, and he only put up 4 points last week, but the opportunity is there. We don't know who's going to play. Well, we do know Locke is playing this week, but they did say he was injured for most of the week, and they weren't 100% sure if Brett Rippon was going to come in. What do you guys think about Fant this week? I mean, he's super talented, and he's got some really good run after the catch ability. Are you trusting him? I feel like he's a nice security blanket for either of those guys.
Yeah, I've got him as tight end 9. Yeah, it's the Drew Lock issue against Miami that docks him for me. I am noticing on your opportunity report, he only had 29 air yards. I think normally he's targeted downfield more than that, right? I mean, 'cause that's
Yes.
kind of what I've always been liking about him is there's actually some big playability from him as opposed to most tight ends. So hopefully that rebounds. But yeah, I mean, I got him behind like Goddard and Gronk and kind of that top range above them, but I like him way more than the people behind him. Maybe outside of Ebron, I kind of like what he's been doing and a nice matchup. But yeah, he's definitely a tight end 1. I just think Locke's struggles are enough to drop him down a little bit further than I would like.
And I don't love him this week with him and Locke both questionable. And Miami's like 25th against the tight end position, so not a great matchup. But I do love, the 25th in points allowed, I should say, sorry. But I just think that, with tight end the way it is, there's really not a whole lot of guys you can trust anyway. So why not throw Fant out there who's been consistent pretty much all year when he's healthy? So not a whole lot of people have other options, but I wouldn't expect a huge game from him today.
All right. I'll do one more tight end. Another guy that I'm a little worried about with going against Baltimore is Jonnu Smith. So normally we see a lot more targets going his way. He only had 6 last week, which was still above average. And he ran 23 routes. The thing that really popped up was his red zone targets. He had 3 red zone targets last week, which is great. But he didn't really capitalize much. I mean, he had 9 points, which is above average for tight end last week. But I don't know. I feel like he's all or nothing every week. So you guys worried about him at all against Baltimore this week, or you rolling with him?
I'm definitely worried. I mean, I'm playing him in a home league. I just kind of got stuck with him, and he's my tight end 13. I mean, you're right. He's had like 1 or 2 catches the last 4 or 5 weeks. It's just kind of disappeared since he had an ankle injury, and he should be over it, but he's kind of dropped off since then. But I mean, his red zone work is huge. I mean, not well for as many targets as he's getting a ton of red zone work, and
Yeah.
he's got 4, 5, 7 touchdowns on the year. It looks like a couple 2 touchdown games, so that's why I'm starting him. But you're right. If he doesn't get that touchdown, you're looking at like 3 points most weeks. So it's just tight end. You're probably going to have to play. I still think he's really talented, really athletic, and it should be better. So maybe with some must-win games coming up, they'll force the ball to him a little more.
I actually kind of think he might have a bounce back game here, just because Baltimore's given up a lot more points to the tight end than they have the wide receiver. So he's had a touchdown, like you said, the red zone work. He's had a touchdown the last 2 games. Of course, last game it was a rushing touchdown, but you love to see that red zone work for a tight end like we were talking about. There's not a lot of tight ends you can trust. So I kind of like him here this week actually.
All right, that's what I got from the opportunity report this week.
All right. Well, we'll hit one question here from Bronco Plays. He says, pick one player out of these: Devontae Parker, DJ Chark, Brandon Cooks, Jamison Crowder. And this is standard.
Standard. Let's see.
I got to go to standard mode. Hold on a second here.
I haven't, Devontae Parker hasn't been great with Tua, so I think I might fade him. Chark's playing the Steelers.
Yeah, I think it's Cooks. I'm trying to make sure that's what my rankings actually say. I don't want to go against myself.
I'm tempted to say Jamison Crowder, but I mean, just in case, they're playing the Chargers' pass defense has been bad. Joe Flacco's a deep ball specialist.
I just feel like he's so volume dependent. Like he just gets a ton of targets. I think it's close between Cooks and Chark.
Yeah, I've got Cooks. I mean, Crowder is – I just don't know what to think because he was getting like 12 targets a game, and then his last time out against the Patriots, first game back from injury, he only saw like 4, I think. So was that, coming back from injury, just getting back into shape, or are they trying to get the ball more to Perriman and Mims and all them? So Crowder's – I don't know honestly what to think about him right now. So Flacco's kind of the tiebreaker. I'm probably going to bench him because he's got Flacco as his quarterback, and I'll go with Cooks just because Watson. I mean, big play potential there.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean slightly. I'm gonna go Cooks. But I mean, Chark's right there, and he's played a lot better the last few weeks, and they've been throwing the ball deep to him, which has been helpful. So I feel like it's neck and neck right there, but I feel like you're gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and go with Brandon Cooks, just slightly above Chark.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cooks as well. Just because Chark and them are playing the Steelers. So, Charlie Line says J.D. McKissick or Todd Gurley in PPR. I'm going Todd Gurley, not because of fan bias, but because I think he's the better play this week and the better running back, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm going J.D. McKissick. That guy gets a million targets. I mean, I think Alex Smith thinks he's a wide receiver. Like, I think he had like 15 targets last week. It was insane. I just wrote about him. And they're running the ball with him as well. So he had 15 targets, and he even got some green zone work. He had an attempt within the 5-yard line. And they're not afraid to use him as a running back and as a wide receiver. And I don't know, like when Alex Smith was under pressure, he was looking his way. He was just throwing the ball up to him. So I think he's a safe outlet for him. I'm not too worried about Cincinnati's pass rush this week, but it's still I think there's something to be said about the rapport between the two.
Yeah, I've got Gurley RB12 and McKissick 17, so I'm going Gurley as well. I think they're both really good plays. Yeah, McKissick's had 14 or more targets in 2 straight weeks, so it's pretty crazy. But Gurley, I mean, this is a bad matchup against the Saints, but I mean, he gets a touchdown every single week. So I know, it's a little touchdown dependent, but when they get down there, he's getting the ball. So I'm going to stick with Gurley, but you can't really go wrong here. My only worry with McKissick is if they actually get out to a lead, which doesn't happen much for Washington against the Bengals. Maybe it's less checkdowns. Maybe they're not throwing 50 times like they have been. So that's the only worry with McKissick here. Maybe see a little more Gibson.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I don't think it's, a bad play off. You go McKissick. It could be even maybe the safer play because New Orleans against the running back has been really good. But, I just like Todd Gurley in that offense. So
I just think I've talked about him multiple times in the opportunity report. Like I feel like he is the most touchdown dependent running back in football. He gets a few. I think his breakaway percentage is pretty low. Like it's like if plays over 15 yards, runs over 15 yards is like 5% or below. And so he's not making people miss. He's not getting those big plays. He's just getting so much goal line work, and he gets in. He's like one of the best goal line backs. But if he's not getting a goal line carries, if he's not getting a touchdown, you're not getting much out of him. So I'd rather have that high floor of all the targets, and then hoping that he's going to continue to get another green zone look or rushing attempt out of McKissick, and I'd rather gamble with that.
Yeah, Gurley has 15 catches in 9 games. McKissick probably has that in about 3/4 of that. So.
Yeah.
And then Matt's got a nice question here that we can segue into DFS. He says, is Taysom must play at his price point in DraftKings or too much ownership projected with potential flop?
I think it depends on what game you're playing. Are you playing cash or if you're playing GPP? Because if you're playing GPP, I think there's going to be too many people that are playing him. I think you need to pivot off of him. But if he's cash, I mean, I think it's someone to consider because he is so cheap, and you can stock up on other high end players elsewhere. But I think it kind of depends on the game you're playing.
Yeah, there are a lot of running backs you can save money on this week too. So there's a lot of ways to save money. So I wouldn't too much worry about the cost. Yeah, so I agree with Kenny. If everyone else in your league is going to be playing Taysom, I would probably pivot and go with someone, a little. I mean, like Cam. You could get Cam in a potential shootout here, and I think he could put up. He's a better quarterback, I like to think, than Taysom Hill. So if you don't need that extra savings, I don't think you need to go for it this week.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely, I think almost I would pivot just because I think a lot of people are going to be trying to play him, especially, I know this is DraftKings, but obviously in FanDuel, I want to know how many people's got him in their tight end spot because I believe he is still eligible for tight end in FanDuel. So I don't see a scenario where people are going to pass up that opportunity. But yeah, I think this might be kind of a trap. I mean, Taysom Hill could come out and have a great game, but I would not go down that rabbit hole. So
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can fade him in FanDuel. I mean, if he's a
no.
tight
No,
end,
I think you have to.
yeah, you just have to put him in there. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, in a GPP he can do anything, so maybe it's worth throwing a lineup out there without him. But yeah, that's kind of not fair. So you got to get him in there.
So we got about 15, a little under 15 minutes here before kickoff. We'll hit a few of the DFS plays this week. One guy I like that I would spend up for is Dalvin Cook against the Dallas Cowboys. If I'm going to spend my money somewhere, I would like it to be on Dalvin Cook this week. Should have a huge game against this very, very bad Dallas defense.
Yeah, he was the first one I penciled in when I was making lineups. So you want to be creative, but you can't pass him against Dallas. He could get 35 touches here. That's just the way the Vikings are.
Agree.
I was about to say, I think
Nothing to add. Nothing to add. Sorry, I'm pulling up my DFS
it's all good.
Yeah, me too.
Another running back I like, Mike Davis. This is, of course, I made this before the PJ Walker news, but him at 6,800 just seems kind of like a value to me. You don't see a lot of starting running backs around that price point, but maybe with PJ Walker that gets downgraded a little. But Mike Davis is still a guy I'm willing to take a chance on this week.
I think PJ might actually add to his value a little bit because he's a running quarterback, which usually helps the running game. And I think we might be able to see a little bit more passing out of the backfield. So I think you might get a few more targets going his way to Mike Davis. So I like the Mike Davis play this week. I think that's a good idea.
Yep, agreed. There's a lot of cheap running backs this week too. I mean, if you wanted to play AP, he's way down at 4,000. I probably am not going to go with him, but Ahmed is at 4,800. And then a couple I've been playing, now I can't find them here. But Gio Bernard, 5,500, Balaj, 56. There's a lot of cheap players. So like I was saying, a quarterback, I think you can really save some money this week and get the Dalvin Cook types and pay up for where you want to.
Yeah, we talked about Naeem Hines. He's 5,200 also.
Yep.
If you want to pay up, we talked about him on our podcast. Derrick Henry, I really like this week, especially because that big run stopper that Calais Campbell and Brandon Williams in the middle of that Baltimore defense, they're injured. They're going to be out this week. And that's how they want to beat Baltimore. They showed it in the playoffs last year. They want to keep Lamar on the bench, and they just want to run the ball down their throat. And that's going to be big. I mean, he's not going to get you any passing plays, but I feel like he's going to have a pretty decent game. And I do think A.J. Brown could have a pretty decent game also off the play action.
Yeah, one I'm looking at is Antonio Gibson against the Bengals. I know we all talk about McKissick and all the work he's getting. He has been out snapping Gibson by quite a bit. So we do need to see a little bit of a change in usage, but I'm a little worried. This Washington pass rush is really good, and that's what the Bengals struggle against. So if that causes havoc, Washington gets out to a lead, I could see a lot of work for Antonio Gibson, a lot of big plays, a lot of touchdowns. So I think he's at 5,800, and he's probably not going to be a lot of people's first choice with some values out there and then some Dalvin Cook types. So I think you can sneak Gibson in, and he's got some pretty big upside. Yeah, it's going to suck if McKissick's out there for 2/3 of the snaps and Gibson's on the sidelines, but he still might be able to get it done against this Bengals defense.
I think that's a sharp play. I think that's a good idea because he's their big play guy, and they still use him close to the goal line as well. So I feel like if someone is going to score from outside of the red zone, it's going to be Gibson, and they throw it to him as well. They like McKissick right now, and I think the real reason is because Gibson is not as good at pass blocking, and they really need to protect Alex Smith because they don't have anybody else. So McKissick is getting more play right now.
Yeah, and speaking of that Washington and Bengals game, I've got Terry McLaurin in here as well, 6,900. He's kind of one of the cheaper, higher tier receivers you can get. That Bengals pass defense is bottom 5 in the league right now. I think it's given out like the 4th most to quarterbacks. So Terry McLaurin is a guy I like at that price point.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have him as my wide receiver like 5 this week. I think I'm all in. He gets consistent work. He's had 7 catches in 4 straight weeks. I think the lowest targets he's had all year is 7 in a game. So they're going to throw it to him. This is a great spot. So yeah, actually Gibson and McLaurin, I think those are 2 good ones to fit in.
yeah, he was my cash lock on our podcast this week. He's my guy.
And also like Justin Jefferson at 6,000 against Dallas. That's pretty good for that price. I'll take Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, he's tied for second in the league in plays over 20 yards and tied for second again for plays over 40. And that's just because DK played on Thursday. So he could be tied for first. He's such a big play receiver, and that Vikings defense isn't anything that's, that Dallas defense is not great against the pass. So I can see him getting at least one, and getting into the end zone this week.
Yeah, on the Sit Start podcast, they were giving me a little pushback for having Kirk Cousins QB 14 this week. And that was, I know that Dalvin's going to run a ton. That's what they want to do. But my argument was just, if they're in the red zone 6 times against this Cowboys defense, I'll take my chances on a few touchdowns. So, I know we try not to chase touchdowns too much, but when you're playing the Cowboys defense, I think it's worth it.
Yeah, I had a lot of questions about Kirk Cousins in the Sit Start Reddit forum as well. So,
yeah.
And speaking of quarterbacks, I like this week Big Ben and Cam Newton. Big Ben against the Jags at 6,700 and Cam Newton for 6,200 against Houston. I really like that Cam Newton play with the rushing upside and whatnot. He looked, pretty good against Baltimore last week, so I want to see what he can do against Houston this week.
Yeah, I agree with you. He's been, for as ugly as it's looked, he's been a top 12 quarterback like 6 of 8 weeks. And Houston can't stop the run or the pass. So regardless which one Cam wants to do, I think he's a good play. I've got Cam and Jacoby Myers in most of my DFS lineups, so I'm right on board with you, Aaron.
I'm going right back to the Titans. I like Ryan Tannehill this week. He's been really good against blitzing defenses, and that's what Baltimore likes to do. Like I already said, they're down some of their better defensive players, and they've let up a lot of points the last few weeks against quarterbacks. So I'm not really scared of them, and I can see this being a Derrick Henry. I can see it also being a Ryan Tannehill game, and he can win with his legs too. So I feel like he's got a decent floor, and I think that could be a really good play that not a lot of people are on because you see Baltimore's defense, and you're like, no, I don't think so. And I think he could be a good play. And if we talked about A.J. Brown, but I think you can pivot off of him and play some leverage on Corey Davis. Corey Davis is pretty cheap, and he's had over 20% target share over the last few weeks as well. So he's a good play as well. I think it's like 5,000 something, 5,200 or something like that.
Yeah, I think they're definitely more GPP plays, but I'm on board with you. I picked in our Beat the Spread article this week. I think the Titans were underdogs by 6, at least when we did the article. And that's just crazy to me. This is a team, I know they were on fire last year, but they dominated the Ravens in the playoffs, and not that long ago. So I don't know. I don't think people are giving the Titans enough credit in this matchup, and the Ravens have been struggling themselves. So I like all of them. I think they could surprise this week, and maybe we get a sneaky shootout here because the Titans defense isn't that great either.
And they just lost Clowney to injured reserve, so.
Yeah.
The last play I like here, other than the defense we'll talk about, is Hawkinson for 4,200. Somebody's got to get those targets this week with Amendola and Galladay out, and also Swift. So I really like Hawkinson as a play.
Yeah, he's been great in the red zone. Also, they look for him, and he's a nice big target, and he's been getting a lot of touchdowns down there. So and that's what you look for in tight ends. You need to get guys that are getting targets in the red zone. That correlates best to PPR points, and he's one of them. So for that price, I'm buying.
Yeah, his targets noticeably went up when Galladay went out, and Galladay's out again. So, yep, like that play as well.
And then lastly, I've got a defense here that I didn't, I didn't really want to spend up for any of the higher defenses. I think the Chargers against the Jets, it seems like a good play on paper, but the Chargers' pass defense has been pretty bad, and Flacco didn't look awful, last week. So I picked the Dolphins against the Broncos with a banged-up lock and, a few other injuries. 3,400, seemed like a pretty good – Dolphins have been getting quite a few turnovers and scoring off of them. So I figured they were a decent play at 3,400 this week.
Yep, I think I spent up on them as well, so I'm right on board with the Dolphins. 5-minute warning if anyone needs a set lineup, by the way.
Yeah, I was going to say. So I guess if we'll answer a few more questions if anyone has them, but like Erik said, it's 12:56 by my count, so we may, get on out of here if we don't have any more questions to answer. I've still got to look over my lineups again, so I know you guys probably have to do the same.
No, mine are locked. I don't touch them up to game time. I lock them in at 12, and I don't look at them anymore because otherwise I do stupid things.
Yeah, I've got them all set, but I like to panic last minute. So
no, Erik,
Kenny.
Don't do it.
I should start Fulgham at flex. I don't know.
So. I don't know either. I'm sitting Fulgham in one league.
Do you trust your lock / Rhett Rippin?
No, I don't.
No,
and I asked you guys on the podcast, so I have to play them. I mean, I can't ask for your advice and then
ignore it.
So yeah,
we won't let you hear it. Well, I mean, okay, don't yell at us when we get it wrong. But if we get it right, we're going to let you hear.
My home league team's not that good anyway, so I'll go with them. Whatever.
Okay. All right. Low stakes.
Yeah, low stakes.
Well, guys, I've definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed having you guys on to kind of, it's nice to get away from Matt for – no, I'm just kidding. He's actually coming into town for Thanksgiving, so he's usually in Houston, Texas, but he's coming over here to Georgia for a few – he's actually – I think we may be going to Top Golf, so we'll talk a little fantasy, watch some football. But I appreciate Kenny Hyttenhove coming on with us, and then, of course, our Commander-in-Chief, Erik Smith. So good luck today, guys. Good luck to your Colts and your Bengals. And good luck to my Falcons, hopefully. We really need this division win. We're still somehow in the playoff mix. But
Are you really?
Yeah, apparently we're like in the hunt of the teams. They showed a graphic. I forget what game it was the other day, but we were like the last team in the hunt below the Vikings. So because we still got to play the Bucs twice, we still got to play the Saints twice, and we've split with the Panthers. So we're just now getting into the meat of the division games, and then Breeze is going to be out for both of them. So kind of like that, but
yeah,
that helps.
They've been. I mean, and also the Falcons should be undefeated. They had that Todd Gurley mishap, but they should be undefeated from the since Dan Quinn was fired. They went 3-1. Defense has played a lot more inspired. So we'll see how it rolls out. But
getting Ridley back, so that was nice.
But guys, I appreciate it. Look forward to hopefully doing this again in the future. And all right.
Thanks for having me.
Cool. No problem.
All right. Good luck, guys.
See y'all.